This is part 4 of my video series talking about how to pleasure a woman, how to get the most sexually out of a woman, and how to help her to have the best kind of orgasm. So I hope you've watched the last 4 because that's going to help you to understand what we're talking about now. So once you've done the steps I talk about in the first 3 series, now you're hopefully ready for penetration with your partner. Now I always suggest, even if you're a couple that have been together for 20 or 30 years, do check in with your lady friend before penetrating, just as a sign of respect to her vagina. Now, when we look at a vagina, it's easy to think the vagina is a hole, but it's not. It's actually a set of sort of like 16 muscles and tendons that are at the base of our body, that's actually holding all of like our organs in place. So it's so essential to our physical health. And one of my reasons for making this video is I want men to understand that it's actually really harmful to just go and just penetrate a woman without opening her up. What you're actually going to do over a period of years is just shut her down sexually, so she can't orgasm and she can't experience pleasure anymore, which also has a knock-on effect on her whole health of her body. And this is why often after like 10 or 15 years the wives aren't interested in sex anymore, but it's because they've been approached in the wrong way, because the men just didn't know how to do it. So really make sure that you've followed the steps before, that you're not just going into the penetration. Now vaginas are like really fun, really cute little things to play with, and I'm going to imagine here that my hand is a vagina. And when we first come, so I like to approach with my thumb, and I just like to stroke the entrance of the vagina, and hopefully it should be wet by now, because if it's not wet, something's going on and it's not ready for penetration. Now I'm not talking about stroking the clitoris, I'm talking about below the clitoris, where you have the vagina entrance and you have also the urethra. So the urethra actually also is an erogenous zone. And when you start going like this, you should get a little sucking feeling. So you should get a little feeling like a suction happening. And when you've got that suction happening, you know that you've activated the muscles of the vagina. And this is what you want, because if the muscles are just deactivated, or if they're too tight as well, the woman isn't going to be able to have good orgasms. She's not going to be able to enjoy good sex. So this is why when a man or somebody just goes to a woman and just penetrates her hard, the muscles are just going to go loose, or they're going to go tight. Now ideally what you want is you want a strong and you want a dexterous vagina. Now personally I use jade egg exercises. There's other ways to exercise as well, but I find like exercising my vagina, it definitely affects my ability to experience pleasure, and also just in general like my general health. So finding with your thumb that little sucking reflex, and then imagining that the clitoris is up here. I like to go in with the finger, and the finger pointing up to the top, so it's pointing to the back of the clitoris, which is also known as the G spot, because you have the clitoris is a huge piece of tissue inside. And when you reach up to the top there, you should feel something that feels a little bit like the roof of your mouth. And this is your G spot. So once you've found that G spot at the top, you can go around with your fingers and make just swiping movements like this, going around the whole vagina and just checking in and seeing what she's feeling. Now you might feel like some parts in her vagina are a little bit hard, and just massage those a little bit, just the same way you massage a shoulder. Now sometimes also they can feel a bit lumpy and a bit rough, but with a bit of massaging and a bit of rubbing, these should all start going soft again, which means that the tissue becomes healthy again as well, and it becomes, more importantly, open to pleasure and open to orgasmic pleasure. Now, if we're going to talk a little bit about the pleasure zones, which we're best getting at them with the finger, although interestingly enough, a guy with a smaller penis will have an easier time to actually get to the pleasure zones with his penis than a guy with a larger penis. But this is a whole nother controversial story, which I got a little bit of flack for saying. But when we put the finger inside and we feel up to the top, that little first area inside, and it's almost like we need to curl the finger up a little bit, that first area inside is the G-spot. Now the G-spot can be very, very pleasurable, but it also can feel kind of weird as well. And if it's like the tissues are blocked, they're tense, it can feel weird. So that means like it might be over a period of weeks, even months, you need to just massage that area of your beloved and just encourage her to relax, to open up. And slowly you're going to start getting the G-spot sensitive and pleasurable again. Now also it's good to be aware we can store anger in our G-spot. So it might even be, if it's not feeling good, if the G-spot is maybe painful or numb, we might even have anger that we need to express. So we need to find a way to express that as women as well. And it is certainly helps to work on ourselves. If we want to have the best orgasm, we want to have the best sex, we can't just rely on our partner to do that for us. We need to also find a way to actively get it ourselves. And so we have first the G-spot, and then when we go in further, so the finger's like all the way in, there's another erogenous zone there, which is called the A-spot. So that's distinct, and the way it feels is distinct from how the G-spot feels. And that's another place that we can play with massaging, we can play with activating. And when we've got all the way up to the A spot, what we're going to start feeling something coming down, and that's the cervix. And stroking the cervix is a really powerful, amazing thing. I mean, we can cause a woman to have like a full body orgasm which travels all the way from her cervix up through her heart and into her head. It's such an amazing feeling. But she can also cry when we start touching her cervix, and that can happen because she had some stuck energy, she had some stuck emotions in her cervix. And if she does that, if she cries, just let her cry, let her get it all out. Don't say it's okay, stop crying or anything like that. Just allow her to express, and even if she needs to be a bit of an animal with her expression, allow that to happen, because sex is actually a very animalistic thing, and it's something we have to stop being sort of like conservative, well-behaved humans. Really, to be able to enjoy it, we need to go a little bit wild. So then coming down from the cervix and going to the back of the cervix, we're going to find another spot, which is more or less, you have the anus here, and if you're massaging on the anus, there's another spot, I think I've heard it referred to as the K spot. And that's another erogenous zone that you can play with your partner. Now, we've mentioned here 5 erogenous zones. Obviously, we have the clitoris, which I didn't even mention too much about, but because it's known so well. But then I mentioned the urethra, the G-spot, the A-spot. Then you have the cervix and the tip of the cervix, which feels a little bit like the end of your nose, which is referred to as the C-spot. And then back by the anus, the A-spot. Now, every woman is going to feel differently, and some women might find one spot feels really great, another one less great. Sometimes you can play with them a little bit and then get them more active. And you might find like new erogenous zones inside your woman. I mean, I personally found out that to the side of the A spot, I suppose, on each side, I have an erogenous zone, which I believe is actually relates to my psoas muscle. And I found that spot like really quite pleasurable as well. So, so this is how to stimulate and find these spots with our fingers, which obviously is like the easiest way to do it. Now, when it comes to, if you're a man, you have a penis, presumably, how to then approach the vagina with your penis. Now, Mantak Chia suggests that a woman should be stimulated for around an hour and a half to open up her vagina before penetration with a penis. Now, certainly I would say there needs to be plenty of like natural lubrication going on. The way to find out how to do this is different for different people. Some people it might come really easily, other people more hard. Sometimes it might be one day it comes really easy, another it doesn't. It's all about if we're feeling relaxed and if we're feeling comfortable and literally the juices are opening up and flowing. Now, the first lubrication that's going to come is going to be quite a slimy sort of mucus-like fluid, which comes from the Bartholin glands on either side of the vagina. But then there's other kinds of fluids. So for example, from massaging the G-spot, a very, very watery liquid can come out of the urethra, which is the well-known female ejaculation liquid. But then there's another kind of female ejaculation liquid that can also come out of the A-spot, which is a bit more like, a little bit more kind of slimy or creamy, we can say. And now I also know that a liquid can come out of the cervix too, which is maybe like a little different from the A-spot and the cervix liquid, but sometimes it's a little bit difficult to tell exactly where the liquids can come from. And the amount of liquid that coming out, it can be like copious, yeah, it can be enormous amount, like even for like 1 to 2 liters of liquid to come out, it's not unheard of. So so if there's a lot of water coming out, yeah, that's a great sign that you're doing well. Use a towel. I mean, I always like to have a towel to hand, put a towel down underneath for any mess, you know, so you don't need to worry about if you're bothered sleeping in a patch of water overnight. So bringing the penis into it now. I mean, I love to just have the penis rubbed on the outside of my vagina at the beginning. I find it like so pleasurable. Rubbed around the clitoris, just rubbed around. And also, like I mentioned before, about the man being able to exercise restraint and feeling that he's in control of himself, that he's not pushing into you ahead of what you're ready for. I mean, there's even been times where maybe like I've had a bit of a sexual trauma where I've actually wanted the man to go completely passive and allow me to penetrate onto him and completely lie there. And that was actually exactly what I needed to get over the sexual trauma I'd been experiencing, for me to feel in control of what was happening, instead of him being in control of me. And then after that, I was able to make love like in a normal way with him. So it's really important to see like, where's the lady at, you know, because sometimes if we've had like a bad sexual experience in whatever way, emotionally, physically, you know, we have a little bit of healing we need to do. And it's not like a huge job. It's not a really difficult thing. And if you're open to allow your lady to heal, she really is going to have like absolutely the best sex, and you as the guy are going to be like her god, you know. She will respect you for it forever and love you for it forever. So the rubbing on the outside, lovely. Check in with her, see what she wants, and when you come to the entrance, massage a little bit around the entrance as well with the tip of the penis. Now, about condoms, if she wants you to use one, unless she's given you permission to do it without, make sure you use one before you do any kind of touching with the penis at all. And check again before you, first of all, before you touch with the penis and before you penetrate with the penis, just check in with her and just say, are you ready? Do you want it? So that again, she's feeling in control and she's feeling happy with what you're doing. Now, there's an ancient Chinese technique of penetration, which is called the technique of shallow penetration. It's called alternating actually shallow and deep penetration. So what's so great for a lady about shallow penetration is that it stimulates the G-spot, but then in general it evokes a kind of like squeezing of the vagina. So it causes the vagina to kind of almost like grab onto the penis if it's done correctly. And they recommend like 9 shallow, 1 deep. And for some reason, this 9 shallow, 1 deep works way better than 8 shallow, 1 deep or 10 shallow, 1 deep. And just experimenting with this and experimenting it with in a slow way, you know. There's so many different positions we can have sex in. I don't even want to start going into this because that's going to be like a 2-hour long film minimum just to touch the topic. But experiment with getting in at different angles, different parts, going slowly. Don't just do an in and out movement, but you know, there's a screwing technique that Master Chia talks about. I have a video about this. There's other ways of experimenting, and just remember, like, go slow. Try to continue it for a long time. Try to keep the connection, keep the looking in the eyes, and most of all, just have fun and do it having fun. Do it really feeling that connection, really feeling not just your body, but your whole energy fields are interacting together, that you're having a lot of fun, and check in that she's happy with what's going on. Look at her, look at how she's responding, and ask her, for sure, ask her how she feels. And after you've done it, talk about it in between, see what she likes, see what she doesn't like. Be adventurous, experiment, and communicate. And that's the way you're going to really just have the best time. Communicate, go slow, relax, and just feel the energy.